Hi, my name is Mima. And did you know that Mima is another word for grandma? So I am a grandma, and I'm also a mom. And I was at the library yesterday, and I have to tell you, the greatest thing happened. I went to the librarian in the children's book area, and I asked her, I said, can you please give me 5 of your very best books? And so she found 5 of the very best books, which I will read for you later. But then she came running up to me afterwards, and she said, oh, you have to take this one. And I haven't read it yet. I was going to read it for the first time with you guys. So it's called Sophie's Squash. Have you guys already heard of this book? I have never heard of it. Let's see what it's about. One bright fall day, Sophie chose a squash at the farmer's market. Her parents planned to serve it for supper, but Sophie had other ideas. I wonder what her other ideas were. It was just the right size to hold in her arms, just the right size to bounce on her knee, just the right size to love. I'm glad we met, Sophie whispered. Good friends are hard to find. At home, Sophie used markers to give her squash a face. Then she wrapped it in a blanket and rocked it to sleep. See the baby squash? When it was time to make supper, Sophie's mother looked at the squash. She looked at Sophie. I call her Bernice, Sophie said. I'll call for a pizza, said her mother. Because her mom realized that Sophie liked the squash as a little person, After that, Bernice went everywhere with Sophie. To story time at the library, to visit other squash at the farmer's market, to practice somersaults in the garden, every night, Sophie gave Bernice a bottle, a hug, and a kiss. Well, we did hope she'd love vegetables, Sophie's mother told her father. Shh, Sophie said. Bernice is sleeping. Sweet pea, Sophie's mother said one morning as they made blueberry waffles. Bernice is a squash, not a friend. If we don't eat her soon, she'll get mushy and gross. Let's bake her with marshmallows. Won't that taste yummy? Don't listen, Bernice, Sophie cried. Aww. That afternoon, Sophie's father took her shopping. Sugar beet, he said, Bernice is a squash. Why don't you pick a nice toy to play with instead? But the trucks were too hard, and the dolls were too soft. Sophie clutched Bernice tightly. No thanks, she said. I have everything I need. After supper, Sophie's parents called a family meeting. Bernice napped in Sophie's lap. Why don't we donate Bernice to the food pantry before she rots, her father suggested. Sophie shook her head. Bernice will last forever, she said. That's a sad predicament for Sophie, because one day she's going to have to realize that Bernice is a squash. Bernice seems a little blotchy, said Sophie's dad on the way to the library one day. She looks perfect to me, Sophie said. So why do you think Bernice was a little splotchy? Because squash is a vegetable, and when vegetables start to get old, they start to get splotchy. At story time, some kids pointed and stared. "What's that spotty thing?" a boy asked. Her name is Bernice, and she's a squash," Sophie said, "with freckles." A squash with freckles. "Maybe Bernice should stay home next time," Sophie's mom suggested. "Why?" Sophie asked. "She wasn't the one being rude." Still, as winter neared, Sophie noticed changes. Bernice seemed softer, and her somersaults lacked their usual style. She was just kind of sitting there. "Visiting friends will cheer you up," Sophie said. At the farmer's market, squash were everywhere, firm, shiny squash. "What keeps a squash healthy?" Sophie asked a farmer. "It's simple, really," he said. "Fresh air, good clean dirt, a little love." Well, Sophie thought, I have all that. She'd been giving Bernice a lot of love, huh? At home, Sophie cleared leaves from Bernice's favorite spot. She made a bed of soft soil, tucked Bernice in, and kissed her goodnight. "Get better soon," she whispered. That night, while Sophie slept, the wind whistled and the tiny snowflakes fell. See the snowflakes in the window? When she awoke, the world was covered in white. "Do you think Bernice is cold out there?" Sophie asked her mother. "I'm sure she's warm and cozy under her snow blanket," her mother replied. Sophie gazed out the window all morning. She was still there in the afternoon when her father came home with a surprise. "You need a new friend," he said. I wonder who that is. "Meet Ace." Ace was nice, but boring. He just swam round and round in his bowl. But during the long winter, Sophie discovered that Ace was a superb silent reader who did fabulous flip turns, and he always listened politely when she talked about Bernice. She said Bernice was great at keeping secrets. When the snow finally melted, Sophie rushed to the garden. The only thing there was a small green sprout. It looked strangely familiar. "Bernice," Sophie said, "how was your winter?" See the little sprout right here? I think she recognized Bernice. After that, Sophie, Ace, and Bernice ate lunch together every day. Here's where Bernice is. Because now she is growing a new plant. She's growing new leaves because she's a squash, and she just keeps growing and growing every year. One bright summer morning, Sophie somersaulted across her yard, landed by the garden, and stared in disbelief. What did she see? She's staring. Let's see. Bernice had grown two tiny squash. See, look in there. 1, 2. Wow, Sophie told them, you look just like your mom. Soon, Bonnie and Baxter were just the right size for Sophie to hold in her arms and bounce on her knee. Just the right size to love. So Bernice was planted in the fall in the ground, and then in the spring, after the winter, she sprouted and she became a huge plant, and she had those 2 little baby squash. And then what will happen if she plants one of those squash? In the fall, if she plants one of those squash, then after the next winter, in the spring, then there'll be another sprout, and there'll be some more squash. Isn't that amazing how that works? So that was a really good book, huh? Sophie's Squash by Pat Zietlow Miller and Anne Wilsdorf. I hope you guys liked that, and I hope you learned a little bit about how plants work. They grow from seeds, and Sophie's squash, Bernice, had seeds inside of her. So when she was planted in the dirt, those seeds made a sprout. It's a miracle. It's awesome. I love how that works. Well, anyway, we're at the end of our book, and I need to tell you something that I've been wanting to tell you. Yes, that's right. Is that how much I love you? Because I love you tons. You know that, right? I love you. And I hope you'll come back for another book at another time, and we'll read another story. Mwah! Have a wonderful day.